So literally one day after I came back from my short break from YouTube, Nintendo tweets out a pretty interesting and pretty exciting announcement about the classic NES Fire Emblem game getting localized from Japan for the first time for an English-speaking audience on the Nintendo Switch eShop coming this December. This definitely came out of nowhere, and it is pretty cool news. Don't get me wrong, this is definitely cool. I'm a big Fire Emblem fan, so I think there's something really neat about seeing the original NES game finally be available to play in English for the first time. And this is happening because it's the 30-year anniversary too. So it's interesting to see them celebrating another anniversary here at the very, very end of 2020. I will say I was a little bit duped because when I woke up this morning and I first checked my phone and I got on Twitter like, you know, a lot of us probably do, I saw that there was a tweet about Nintendo Fire Emblem something December 4th, and I was like, oh crap, what did they do? Is this a new Fire Emblem game? Wait a minute, is this like a remake of the original Fire Emblem? Holy smokes. And then I saw it was just a straight port of the NES game, of course available in English. So it's not that it's bad news that they're doing it, but I will admit when I first saw it, before my brain registered what it was, I thought it was going to be something way bigger and way, way cooler. But either way, like I said, it is definitely neat to see them doing this. And, you know, I am excited. I think a lot of people are excited. Definitely a lot of Fire Emblem fans seem pretty pumped about this, which is cool. So, like I said, they released this via a tweet, which they've been doing all year in 2020. They released this tweet right here that says, 30 years ago, the first Fire Emblem introduced beloved characters like Marth and the series' signature strategic gameplay. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light comes to Nintendo Switch, fully localized for the first time, available December 4th. So there we go, just the very first couple of days of the last month of 2020, the worst year in humanity's existence pretty much, we're gonna get this drop of this game. And you know, there's a couple of interesting details going on here with this game that are a little eye-opening, and they might be giving us some hints into where Nintendo might be going with some things in the future as far as these older games. I do have to say though, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video here, that as a big Fire Emblem fan in the newer era, I came on around Fire Emblem Awakening like most people did nowadays, and yes, I'm one of those people. It is really cool to think about going back to the original game. I think that, to my knowledge, the original game unlocalized is available like on the Japanese eShop. So it is something that I think people could download if they wanted to, but if you don't speak Japanese, you're not going to be able to do much into that game because it's very text and story and context heavy. And we also can't forget that a couple of years ago, they actually did remake the second Fire Emblem game, which was called Shadow Emblem, listen to me, Shadow Emblem, Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia. It's clearly too early in the morning for me. Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia, which was the remake name of, I think, Fire Emblem Gaiden was the original name, and that came out on the 3DS a couple of years ago too, which was really cool. And I meant to pick that up, but I just never had an opportunity to, and I've yet to go back to it. And I think that that's part of the reason why when I first saw this tweet before I knew what it was, I thought maybe it was the same thing they did with that game a few years ago. But look, man, I'm an older gamer. You guys know I grew up playing NES games in the 80s, and so for me, when I see this classic NES gameplay, even if it's a game I've never played before, it does get me excited. Like, I'm not dying to play this, even though I think it's cool, and I probably will ultimately play it and check it out. But I will say I'm just a sucker every single time I see classic NES gameplay like this, especially for games that were so advanced and ahead of their time, like the old Dragon Warrior game, and the original Final Fantasy game, and this Fire Emblem game, and so many other stuff like this that was happening way back on the 80s on the 8-bit NES. It's just really cool, man. And so I'm definitely into the idea and curious to check this out. I don't know if it's really going to appeal to me because it is so old, even though I nostalgically grew up on these kinds of games. But I got to admit, this is going to be a pretty big hit for a lot of people. I will say, though, I don't know how I feel about the trailer to this because it was really goofy. Like, it began with these two kids playing Smash Brothers. I think it was Smash Melee, but whatever it was. They were playing Smash Brothers and they were talking about Marth, and it's like, you don't know who Marth is? No, who's Marth? Well, he's the greatest guy from Fire Emblem. And like, it was, I get what they were trying to do, and yeah, it was like, it was cute and all these funny things of these two little kids you know, the way Nintendo probably envisions everyone playing their video games nowadays. And I just thought it was kind of cheesy and silly. I don't know. I mean, it was fine. I just thought it was goofy. I don't know if it was the right choice. I think they could have done it in a different way, but whatever. The other thing I did want to bring up is that there's also a really cool collector's edition for this game, you guys. There is some major, huge stuff going on. You can see it here. I'll read some of these things. It comes with the Nintendo Switch download. So this is, you know, it's a digital game, of course, that you'd be buying, and it's going to come with that, even though you'd be getting the physical goods. It comes with the Legend of Arcania Deluxe Art Book, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light Replica Game Pack Art Piece. That's kind of a curious choice. It's basically this like crystal clear glass like NES cartridge that's not a real NES cartridge. Interesting choice, but definitely very cool. Replica box and instruction booklet for it, which is also very cool. So it's basically just a big fake NES game without the actual NES game inside of the cartridge. And then a mini Nintendo Power Retro collectible. So cool stuff. You know, most collector's editions nowadays, especially for Nintendo stuff like that they've done like this, is very cool. They've done it for previous Fire Emblem games. They did it for the Xenoblade games. And so this is definitely neat. And this also brings us to like kind of one of the big pieces about this whole thing is that this game is for sale for $5.99, okay? If you go to their website, you can see right here, it's $5.99 to pre-order and to purchase. And so here we have, for the first time in the Nintendo Switch era, where we've already got NES and Super NES online bundles that come with our $20 per year Nintendo Online service, now we have a completely separate NES game that is being sold for a couple of bucks, okay? So there's something to that, right? There's something going on that I think needs to be paid attention to. I'm not going to outright call it like a terrible thing or bad news or a bad business practice, but I find it curious that they've got all these free NES games and they've been adding, you know, NES game after NES game as part of the $20 per year service, but now we're suddenly seeing an NES game being sold to us separately. Now, this is not the same as other things that I've talked about recently and in the past, including actually even my last video, where we've seen like a couple of Nintendo 64 games come over to the Nintendo Switch in a port fashion that are being sold for a couple of bucks, right? Where I've said, hey, you know, you can buy Turok Dinosaur Hunter 1 or 2 or Star Wars Pod Racer or now Mario 64 as different prices on the eShop. To me, that isn't quite the same because we don't have Nintendo 64 games available on the Nintendo Switch Online yet, even though I think that they're probably coming. This is like the reverse situation where we've only had bundles of free NES games and Super NES games available to play with our online service, and now they're adding a separate priced game. So here's the thing. This does not outright bother me. I'm fine with it. I can understand the big picture. Here's the collection of free games we're adding with the service you're paying for. Here's a special game that, for whatever reason, we're deciding to charge you for. Probably because they paid, you know, to localize the game, and I'm sure it took a lot of work and effort. And so, okay, they're selling it individually. But I think that it maybe sets a precedent for some things that could happen in the future. For one, I've yet to see anyone really get upset about this, but I could see some people start to get upset if they're like, oh, I'm already paying for NES games with the online service, and now you're going to charge me $6 for this. I could see people having a problem with that, and I don't know that I would take issue with people having a problem with it. I would understand their logic. For me, it's not bothering me, but does this mean that this could happen more in the future? Potentially. This whole thing reminds me of when they localized the original Earthbound on the Wii U a couple of years ago. I want to say in maybe 2015. They brought the original Earthbound. I think they called it Earthbound Beginnings or Earthbound Legends or something. And it was the original NES Earthbound game that I didn't even know existed at that time. And they brought that over to buy for a couple of bucks on the Wii U's eShop, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm not an Earthbound fan, so I actually bought it, but I never played it because I kind of just wasn't really into it. But I thought it was very cool that they chose to do that, and that seems to be what they're doing here. And Nintendo seems to think that this is worth charging $5.99 for. And it's weird, but hey, that's fine. Now, what we do want to pay attention to, if you read the description on Nintendo's website here, at the very end, they do say, for a limited time. They add that in here, a limited time. So, here we are again. It feels like deja vu, right? We have another popular Nintendo release of a previously released product, too. That's the interesting thing. Just like the Mario games, that's 3 games that were previously released in generations and years and decades past, and they released that for a limited time. And now we have another game from an older generation that's being released for a limited time. So we have this weird trend where Nintendo likes to bring back games from their older generations and only make them available for a small period of time. I find this very strange. I really don't understand what Nintendo's thinking here. You know, with the Mario 3D All-Stars, I've said several times, I think that was a weird choice. I don't think it's a great choice. Maybe the decisions that they make with the games after March might change my opinion on it, but right now, it's a weird choice that I haven't been losing sleep over it, but I don't think it's a smart choice. And now we see the same thing with Fire Emblem here. To me, this is less offensive. It's an even older game. It's just an NES port. It's only a $6 purchase if you want to purchase it anyway. So I'm not really finding as big of a problem with this, but it is still in the same kind of camp as the Mario 3D All-Stars thing. It's like, why do this stuff? It must have to do with the anniversaries, right? That's the other time. That's the other connection, is that the Mario 3D All-Stars is being released for Mario's 35th anniversary, Super Mario's 35th anniversary, and Fire Emblem is being released for the 30th anniversary of this game, the original Fire Emblem game. And so maybe Nintendo has this weird thing where, like, an anniversary special release should only be available for a limited time. And, like, I don't know, I guess I'm getting less upset as the days go on, and less upset now with a second game being announced to do the same thing. But I still think it's weird. I mean, why? I think no other company or game or product would release for the sake of celebrating an anniversary, but not just be available forever. And it can always be known as the game that released in the year of the anniversary, but you can buy it for any time after that anniversary year is over, you know? And it's also unfortunate that they've yet to tell anyone what the limited time frame is, at least that I've seen. I don't think we know what that window of time is. Is it available just in the month of December? Is it available also for 6 months, just like Mario? Is it available for longer? Is it available for less? Who knows? I mean, like, what are they doing? I mean, I could understand if the physical goods for the collector's edition was limited. I mean, that's normal. But the digital $5.99 purchase on the eShop, why make that temporary? Like, there was the Fatal Frame Curse of the Maiden in Black Water, whatever, that came out on the Wii U a couple of years ago. A great game that in the States was only available digitally. Like, that was available forever. In fact, you might even still be able to get online and buy it. And so, like, what if that game just came out and it was being sold for $60 on the Wii U, digital only in the States, but it was only available for a couple of months? Like, why do that? No, they just put that game out there and they said, here you go. This game just exists. You can just buy it forever. Like, for as long as the eShop is up, you can buy it. I don't know why Nintendo wouldn't do the same with Mario and now with Fire Emblem, but I don't know. Like I said, you know, I'm getting a little animated here. I'm not really upset about this, but I find it a curious choice, and I don't think it's the smartest way to go about selling these products. So, either way, these are my thoughts and opinions, and that's what's going on with this random announcement of a Fire Emblem game. The original NES game coming out on December 4th, so it's like, what, 6-7 weeks away or so? Less than 2 months, not too far, so Fire Emblem fans could look forward to that. Like I said, for $6, I'll definitely be picking it up. I don't really want the collector's edition. I don't need more stuff in my house anymore. I've scaled back in my older and wiser years. I've scaled back on my collection of physical nonsense. I still like physical games and physical game cases, but all the extra superfluous stuff, the kind of stuff I put on my shelves here, I have so much stuff in boxes. I just have a handful of things here. I don't really need that stuff anymore like I thought I did years ago. So I don't really care about that part of this, but for $6, the digital game, I'm probably going to buy it and download it. My fiance and I are both big Fire Emblem fans, so we're probably going to check it out for that reason. Should be kind of fun, you know? Yeah, it's weird that it's being sold and not part of the NES Online, and yes, it's weird that it's a limited time, but I don't know. What are you going to do? At least it's only a couple of bucks, and I'm happy to check it out. I mean, they localized the game for the first time. They put that effort in. I'm happy to give them $5.99 for this game. So that's what's going on. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Are you excited or not? And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.